The rain was falling over New York when Alex saw a woman protecting two children under a bus stop cover, soaked, shaking from the cold. When the children raised their faces, he recognized his own eyes. They were his sons, the 5-year-old twins he never knew. And she, Sarah, the wife he shamed while she was pregnant in front of 500 people, was destroyed. She had slept in the car with her kids. She had sold everything to save them, and the system that made Alex rich, she had created it. It was always her. Like this if it touched your heart. Comment how you think this story will end, and subscribe. It costs nothing but helps us a lot. Thank you for being here. Alex Montgomery stopped the Jaguar in front of the red light on Fifth Avenue. The rain fell hard over New York, turning the street into a dark river that reflected the city lights. Inside the luxury car, the silence felt heavier than the sound of the storm. At 39, Alex was the founder and CEO of Montgomery Systems, one of the biggest financial tech companies in the US, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He was respected, feared, admired, but there was a name he avoided thinking about because it always came with guilt. Sarah Miller, his ex-wife, the mother of the children he never met. 6 years before they had been married, Sarah had been hired as a junior engineer in the same company, just graduated from MIT with the best grades in her class. It did not take long for her to show she was special. She saw patterns where no one else did, saw mistakes before they happened, wrote code like it was poetry. Other workers asked her for help. Clients praised her work. The numbers got better every time she touched a project. But Alex never let her shine. At first, they were small comments. "Good try, honey, but let's leave the hard tech decisions to someone with more experience." In team meetings, when Sarah started to explain a new idea, he smiled with that irony everyone knew and stopped her. "Very creative, Sarah, but in the real world we need something more practical." The directors looked away, uncomfortable. She swallowed the shame, thinking it was temporary, that one day he would see her worth. They got married after 2 years of dating. It was an elegant wedding at an estate in the Hamptons, with 200 guests and French champagne. Sarah thought marriage would change things, that Alex would finally see her as his equal. She was wrong. If anything, it got worse. Now she was not just the junior engineer who had her own ideas, but his wife, and Alex seemed to think that gave him even more right to make her feel small. "Don't you think you should focus more on the home?" he told her when she worked late. "Married women have other priorities, right?" When Sarah suggested ideas in family meetings with investors, Alex laughed and said, "My wife has a big imagination," as if he was talking about a hobby and not top-level financial tech. Sarah stayed. Because she loved him, or because she thought she loved him, or because she had put so much into that relationship that leaving felt like a bigger failure than taking the daily shame. Then she got pregnant. When Sarah saw the 2 lines on the pregnancy test, she cried for an hour in the bathroom of their apartment. They were not tears of joy. They were tears of terror, because she knew, with a certainty that made her blood cold, that this would only make things worse, and she was right. Alex acted happy with the news in public. He hugged Sarah, toasted with champagne, she had water, told everyone they were going to be parents. But in private, everything changed. "Now you really need to take it easy," he told her. "Stress is not good for the baby. Maybe you should take leave early." "I am pregnant, not sick," Sarah answered. "You are being irresponsible. Think of the child." It was the same old tactic, but with a new weapon: motherly guilt. If she kept working hard, she was a bad mother before her son was even born. If she defended her ideas, she was selfish. If she complained about how Alex treated her, she was crazy and hormonal. At 3 months pregnant, the annual company meeting came in Chicago. Montgomery Systems had rented the main hall of a big hotel for their most important event of the year. There would be investors from London, Tokyo, and San Francisco, financial experts, press. It was the chance for Montgomery Systems to become the top leader in the sector. Sarah had spent the last 8 months making something new, a smart fraud prevention system. It was not like old systems that followed fixed rules. Hers learned, grew, and saw criminal patterns before the deal was done. The tests were amazing, a 92% drop in hidden fraud. It was brilliant, it was new, and Alex knew it. That is why he told her she should present it. Sarah was surprised. "Really?" "Of course. It is your project. You deserve the credit." She should have been suspicious. She should have noticed the smile that was too wide, the tone too kind, but she was pregnant, tired, and desperate for any bit of praise, so she said yes. On the day of the talk, Sarah woke up sick. Morning sickness had been bad for the whole first 3 months, but that day was very hard. She threw up twice before getting into the blue suit she bought just for this. She put on makeup to hide the dark circles under her eyes, put her hair up, and put on heels that hurt her swollen feet. When she walked onto the stage, 500 pairs of eyes looked at her. The hall was huge. Sarah went to the front, plugged in her laptop, and took a deep breath. And she started. For the first 10 minutes, everything was perfect. She explained how the system worked, showed the test results and the math behind it. The investors nodded, impressed. Some took notes. Sarah started to relax. Maybe, she thought, maybe this time Alex really wanted her to shine. Then he walked onto the stage. It was not planned. Sarah was supposed to do the whole talk alone, but there was Alex in his dark suit and his predator smile, taking the microphone. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, with that deep voice that filled the room. "I just wanted to add some context." Sarah stood still. "As you can see," Alex continued, pointing at her like a father, "my wife is very excited about this project, and she is right to be. It is an interesting idea." He paused. "But I think it is important that you, our investors, understand that Sarah is 3 months pregnant." There was an uncomfortable sound in the room. "And we all know," Alex went on, with that smile that now felt like a knife, "that pregnancy affects judgment, hormones, emotions, tiredness. It is not her fault, it is biology." He laughed a little, asking the crowd to laugh with him. Some did, nervous laughs. This kind of tech needs a cold mind, clear math, not hormonal confusion. Sarah felt the floor open under her feet. "So while we like Sarah's excitement," Alex finished, now looking right at her, "I would suggest this project be checked by our senior team before we put real money into it. Thank you." The claps were few and polite. Sarah was frozen on stage, her hand protecting her belly, feeling 500 people look at her with pity and shame. A pregnant woman who tried to talk about complex tech. How sad. She walked off the stage with shaking legs. She looked at no one. She heard no comments. She walked right to the exit, went out into the afternoon sun, and kept walking until she couldn't anymore. She sat on a bench in a park and cried. Not quiet tears, deep sobs that shook her body. She cried for the shame. She cried for the months of work thrown away. She cried for being so stupid to think Alex had changed. But most of all, she cried because at that moment, on that bench with her hand on her belly, she made a choice. She was not going to raise her child in a place where the mother's brain was a joke. Next morning, when Alex came back from breakfast with investors, he found the apartment empty. Not totally empty. The furniture was there, the pictures on the walls, his clothes in the closet. But everything Sarah owned was gone. Her clothes, her books, her laptop, her shoes. The photos of the two of them that she had put in the living room were face down on the table. And there was a letter. Alex opened it with hands that were not shaking yet. Sarah's writing was clear. "Alex, I am not going to raise him in a place where they laugh at his mother for thinking. I will not let him grow up seeing how you shame the woman who brought him into the world. I will not let him learn from you that talent must be crushed if it comes from someone you didn't expect. Yesterday you decided who I am, a hormonal woman. So today I decide who I want to be, someone free from you. Don't look for me. Don't try to call. This marriage ended the moment you laughed at me in front of 500 people. Sarah." Alex read the letter 3 times. Then he put it on the table, poured a whiskey even if it was 10 in the morning, and sat on the sofa. He waited to feel something. Pain, maybe. Regret. Fear. What he felt was relief. He told himself it was better this way. Sarah was too sensitive, too proud, too hard. The baby probably wasn't even a real problem yet. Just 3 months. She could handle it alone if she wanted, or make other choices. It was not his problem. He convinced his mind of this. His heart. Tried to fight, but Alex was an expert at silencing his heart. He had been practicing for years. He did not look for her. Not that day, not the next, not ever. When his parents asked about Sarah, he said the marriage didn't work. When the workers asked, he said the same. When his lawyer asked if he wanted to start the divorce, Alex signed all the papers without reading them. It included a lot of money that his lawyer called more than fair. Sarah said no. She sent the check back without a signature, without a note, without anything. Alex took it as proof that she really wanted nothing from him. He put the check in a drawer and went on with his life. The company grew, contracts doubled, investors trusted him. In 6 years, Montgomery Systems tripled in value. Alex Montgomery became one of the most successful tech men in the country. He never thought of Sarah, except when he did, in those moments before sleep, when the mind breaks the walls. Then he wondered if she had the baby. If it was a boy or girl, if they looked like him. But they were fast thoughts, easy to drown with work, meetings, and numbers on screens that told him he was winning. Until that rainy night in New York, 6 years later. The light turned green, but Alex did not move. Something on the sidewalk caught his eye. Under the cover of an old building, a woman was trying to protect 2 children from the rain with her own body. They were huddling, soaked, shaking from the cold. The woman wore a thin coat that was not enough for that storm. The children, identical, wore clothes that had seen better days. Something about the scene made Alex get out of the car without thinking. Water soaked his $2,000 suit in seconds, but he didn't care. He walked toward the woman and the kids, not knowing why yet. Then the kids looked up, dark eyes, the same eyebrows, the same nose, the same chin that Alex saw every morning in the mirror when he shaved. His heart stopped. The woman raised her head slowly, as if the move took all her strength. She was thinner than in his memory, with dark circles under her eyes and wet hair stuck to her face. But the eyes were the same, those dark eyes that once looked at him with love. Sarah? She looked at him with no expression for a long moment, as if checking if he was real or a dream from being so tired. Alex, she finally said, with a voice so tired it sounded like a sigh. He swallowed, looking at the kids who watched him with careful curiosity. Are they my sons? Sarah pulled the kids to her in a protective way. Gail and Thomas, 5 years old. Yes, they are yours. What are you doing here? What happened? Sarah took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but her voice started to break. Living, surviving, alone. One of the kids, the one with a small scar over his right eye, grabbed his mother's hand. Mom, I'm okay, my love. Sarah lied, but tears started to fall down her face before she could stop them. She closed her, eyes hard, as if she could stop the crying with her will. It didn't work. The tears kept falling, mixing with the rain. Sarah, please, tell me what happened, Alex said, and for the first time in 6 years, his voice sounded truly worried. She opened her eyes and looked at him. There was so much pain in that look that Alex stepped back. What happened? She said with a bitter laugh. What happened is, I had twins, alone, in a hospital where nurses asked me where the father was. What happened is, I worked as a freelancer for years, coding at night because it was the only time the baby slept. What happened is I wrote code with a child in each arm, and my clients didn't know the brilliant worker they hired was breastfeeding while fixing their systems. Her voice broke completely, but she kept talking as if the words had been stuck for years, and now she couldn't stop them. When Thomas was 3, he got sick, pneumonia. He had a fever so high he shook. Doctors said he needed a special treatment, medicine that the basic system didn't cover, that if he didn't get it fast he could. She couldn't finish the sentence. The other boy, Thomas, hid his face in his mother's leg. I needed $50,000, Sarah continued, wiping tears with shaking hands. $50,000 I didn't have. I had no family to help. My parents died years ago. I had no private insurance. I had nothing but a laptop, some furniture, and 2 kids who needed me. Alex felt the floor, disappearing under his feet. Sarah, I sold everything, she went on, her voice now a whisper. My computer, which was my work tool, my books, the furniture, the jewelry my mother left me. Everything. I got $20,000. It was not enough, so I looked for work at night. I cleaned offices after they closed because I needed something that let me watch the kids during the day. Gail, the boy with the scar, spoke in a small voice. I watched Thomas while Mom worked. You were 4 years old, Sarah said, touching his wet hair. 4 years old and you were already the man of the house. And the treatment? Alex asked, even if part of him didn't want to know. I got it. All 50,000. Thomas was saved. Sarah looked at her son with so much love that Alex felt something twist in his chest. But after that, nothing was left. No money, no savings. The apartment we rented was too expensive, so we moved to something smaller, then something even smaller. Then I couldn't even pay for that. How long? Alex couldn't finish the question. Almost a month we lived in the car, Sarah answered. A '98 car that broke every 2 weeks. We slept all three in the back seat. I told them it was an adventure, that we were camping. Gail and Thomas played being explorers. They didn't know their mother cried in the front seat every night, wondering how I got here. Thomas raised his head from his mother's lap. Mum cried quiet, he said in his little voice. She thought we didn't hear. Sarah hugged her two sons, crying openly now. I tried to protect them, she whispered. I tried so hard to protect them from all this. Gail, the older one by 3 minutes as she would tell Alex later, looked at the man in front of them with eyes too serious for a 5-year-old. Who are you? He asked. Sarah took a deep breath, wiped her tears with the back of her hand, and looked at her kids. He is your father. There was a heavy silence. The kids looked at Alex with faces that mixed curiosity, confusion, and something darker. Thomas, the smaller one, asked in a voice barely heard, "The dad who left?" Those were 4 words, 4 simple words said by a 5-year-old, but they hit Alex Montgomery like 500 bullets. He felt that everything inside him, all the excuses, all the pride he used as a shield for 6 years, fell apart. He looked at those 2 identical children, with their wet faces and dark eyes that were copies of his, and for the first time, in a long time, Alex Montgomery felt something he had forgotten how to process. Total shame. "Come with me," Alex said, and his voice sounded rough. "Please, at least let me take you to a dry and warm place." Sarah looked at him with no trust. "We don't need your charity." "It's not charity, it's—" He stopped, looking for the right words. "It is the least I can do, please, Sarah. You are soaked and it's cold. The kids—" She looked at Gail and Thomas, shaking under the cover, and her fight broke. Not for her, never for her, but for them. She would do anything, even accept help from the man who destroyed her. "Okay," she whispered. Alex's apartment was in the Upper East Side, in one of those modern buildings with a guard, 24 hours and glass elevators. The place was huge, 3 bedrooms with views of Central Park, decorated with that expensive look that screams money in silence. Designer furniture, art on the walls, a kitchen that looked like it was from a magazine. Gail and Thomas looked at everything with huge eyes, not wanting to touch anything. They left puddles on the wood floor. "Wait," Alex said, disappearing down a hall. He came back with thick, soft towels. "Dry yourselves. I'll make you something warm." While Sarah dried the kids, Alex went to the kitchen. His hands shook while he filled the kettle. He didn't know if he had anything right for kids. He lived alone, ate out most of the time. His fridge was a monument to being lonely. Water, an old yogurt, some leftover takeout. He found cookies in a cabinet, probably left by the cleaning lady. He put them on a plate and went back to the living room. Gail and Thomas were sitting very close on the sofa, still in wet clothes but wrapped in towels. Sarah was standing by the window, looking at the city lights with her arms crossed. "You can change," Alex offered. "I have clothes that, well, they will be big, but at least they will be dry." "We won't stay that long," Sarah answered without looking at him. "Sarah, please." She turned fast. "Please what? You want me to act like this is normal? Like 6 years didn't pass? Like my sons haven't asked me 1,000 times why they don't have a dad like the other kids?" Gail and Thomas shrank on the sofa. Alex realized they were scared, not of him, but of seeing their mother like this. "You are right," he said softly. "It's not normal, and there is nothing I can say that justifies—" He stopped. The words stuck. "But please, at least tonight, let me help." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then, exhausted, she nodded. The kids showered, using the big tub like it was a pool. Alex gave them his shirts that went down to their ankles. They looked silly and cute at the same time. He gave them the cookies and warm milk. He watched them eat with a hunger that broke his soul, slow but steady, as if they weren't sure when their next meal would be. "Can I see the bathroom again?" Thomas asked shyly. "It has lights in the ceiling that change color." "Sure," Alex said. When the kids went back to explore the bathroom, Sarah finally sat on the sofa. She looked so small, so tired. Alex sat on the other end, keeping space. "I never looked for you," he said after a long silence. "Not once. I told myself it was because you didn't want me to, that you were clear in your letter, but that was not the real reason." Sarah said nothing, looking at her hands. "The real reason," Alex continued, and his voice broke, "is that it was easier not to know. It was easier to convince myself that you moved on, that you were okay, that the babies were okay. It was easier to pretend nothing happened than to face what I did." "And what did you do, Alex?" Sarah asked, looking at him with hard eyes. "Say it, out loud." He closed his eyes. "I shamed you, many times, on purpose. Every time you were bright, every time you showed you were better than me at something, I crushed you. Not because I really thought you were bad at it, but because your talent scared me." "Go on," Sarah said. "That day in Chicago, when you went on stage, I knew you were going to win. Your system was brilliant, new. Everyone would see it, and I couldn't take it. So I destroyed you in front of everyone. I used your pregnancy as a weapon. I made you look bad, emotional, crazy. And the worst," his voice became a broken whisper, "the worst is that part of me liked doing it. I liked seeing you walk off that stage, knowing I had broken you." Sarah looked at him with a face Alex couldn't read. It was not forgiveness. It was not pity. It was something more. "After I left," she said slowly, "I spent months hating you. Every time the kids cried from hunger and I had no money, I hated you. Every time I worked all night and my body wanted rest, I hated you. Every time Gail asked me why we didn't have a dad, I hated you with every cell of my body." Alex nodded, taking every word like a punch he deserved. "But then," Sarah went on, "I realized something. Hating you meant still giving you power over me. It meant you still controlled my life even if you were gone. So I decided to use it another way." She stood up and took an old envelope from her wet bag. She dropped it on the table between them. "Open it." Alex took the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were many papers. The first was his own goodbye letter that Sarah had kept all those years. The words he wrote with so much pride now felt like poison. But under that was another paper, a patent. Alex started to read and his heart stopped. "Smart Fraud Prevention System Patent registered to Sarah Miller. Date, 3 months after Chicago." "I don't understand," Alex muttered. "The Sentinel Corps?" Sarah asked with a bitter smile. "The system that saved Montgomery Systems from losing millions 4 years ago, the one that got you the deal with the top banks, the one that tripled your company's value. That system." Alex looked at her with wide eyes. "It was you." "It was always me," Sarah said. "After I left, I finished making it. I worked at night while the babies slept. When I was in the hospital after the twins were born, I coded from the hospital bed. I registered the patent with my maiden name, made a fake company, and sold it through a middleman." Alex looked through the papers. Everything was there. The contracts, the money moves, the tech details. Montgomery Systems had paid $2 million for the Sentinel Corps. $2 million that went to a company called Miller Tech Solutions. "The $2 million, he whispered. "They lasted almost 5 years, Sarah answered. "I didn't spend it on luxury. I used it to survive with dignity, to pay rent, food, clothes for the kids, for Thomas's treatment. But a year ago it ran out. Doctors said Thomas needed more checkups, but I couldn't pay anymore. I lost my last client because I was too tired to meet deadlines. We lost the apartment last month." Alex dropped the papers. "Why didn't you call me? When the money ran out, why didn't I go to the man who shamed me in front of 500 people?" Sarah stopped him with a hard voice. "To the man who told me my mind was worse for being pregnant? I chose to be hungry. I chose to sleep in the car. I chose anything before asking for help from someone who never respected me." Alex stood up, walked to the window, put his head against the cold glass. Outside, New York was bright under the rain, not knowing the fall of a man who thought he had everything under control. "Your system," he said with a broken voice, "saved my company. It made me rich. It gave me a name in the world. And while that happened, you and my sons." He couldn't finish. Gail and Thomas came out of the bathroom then, laughing about something. They stopped when they saw the adults, their faces becoming careful again. "Is Mom okay?" Gail asked. Sarah wiped her eyes fast. "Yes, my love. I'm okay." "Are we staying here tonight?" Thomas asked, looking around with hopeful eyes. "There are big beds." Sarah looked at Alex. He nodded fast. "Please, stay, as long as you need." "One night," Sarah said firmly. "Only one night." Alex showed them the guest rooms. There were two, both with huge beds and private baths. Gail and Thomas chose to sleep together in one, as they always did. Sarah tucked them in, sang a quiet song, kissed their heads. When she came out, she found Alex in the kitchen, making tea with clumsy hands. "I didn't know you." "Knew how to make tea," Sarah said. "I don't. This is probably terrible." They sat at the kitchen table with their steaming cups. Outside, the storm kept hitting the windows. "I want to fix it," Alex said. "Everything. I don't know how, but I want to try." "You can't fix 6 years," Sarah answered tiredly. "You can't give me back the nights I spent awake terrified. You can't give Gail and Thomas the years you took from them." "I know, but I can. I can make sure they have everything they need. From now on, I can give them stability, school, safety, money." Sarah stopped him. "You want to give them money. It is what I have to offer." She looked at him for a long moment. "You know what is the saddest part of this, Alex? You still don't get it. I didn't leave because of money. I left because you killed something in me every time you made me feel small. Money doesn't fix that. Then tell me what you want. Tell me what I can do." Sarah took a sip of her terrible tea. "Respect," she finally said. "I want you to respect me. I want you to respect my brain, my work, my skill. I want Gail and Thomas to grow up seeing their father treat their mother as an equal, not as someone less. I can do that. Can you? Because it's not just saying it, Alex, it's living it. It's changing everything you have been for 40 years. He nodded slowly. "I know I have no right to ask this, but give me a chance. A real chance to show you I can change." Sarah studied him with tired eyes. "It's not for you," she finally said. "It's for them. Gail and Thomas deserve to have a father. They deserve better than what we had. So yes, I'll give you a chance, but only one. If you shame me again, if you make me feel less again, if you teach my sons that women should be looked down on, we will leave and you will never see us again. Understood?" "And another thing," Sarah added, her voice stronger. "I don't want your charity. If we do this, I want to work. I want a real job, with a real salary where I am judged for my skill, not my link to you." Alex thought for a second. "The CTO job has been empty for 3 months. The old guy retired and we haven't found a good replacement." Sarah looked at him with doubt. "Are you offering me to be the CTO of Montgomery Systems?" "I am offering for you to try for the job. You will do the same interviews, the same tech tests, the same group that checks all candidates will check you. If you are the best, which I know you are, the job is yours on your own merit." For the first time that night, Sarah smiled. It was not a big smile, but it was real. "Okay, I accept." They slept in different rooms that night. Alex lay awake in his bed, looking at the ceiling, thinking about everything. He had 2 sons, 5-year-old twins who looked at him with eyes that were mirrors of his, an ex-wife who had survived 6 years of hell because of his pride, a system that saved his company, made by the woman he had crushed. In the room next door, Sarah was also awake, watching her kids sleep. Gail snored softly. Thomas was curled up with his thumb in his mouth. They were her whole world, the only thing that mattered. And now that world was about to change. The next morning, Alex woke up early. He made breakfast, or tried. He ended up ordering from a bakery nearby. Croissants, bread, orange juice. When Gail and Thomas came out of their room, they stopped when they saw the table. "Is it all for us?" Thomas asked with huge eyes. "Yes," Alex said. "Eat as much as you want." He watched them eat with that mix of hunger and care. They took small bites, as if they still didn't believe the food was real, that it wouldn't go away. Sarah came out later, in the same dress as the day before, but trying to look okay. Alex noticed she had tried to iron the clothes with her hands. "I have clothes you could use," he offered. "From my sister. She comes sometimes and leaves things here." "Okay," Sarah said, too tired to say no. After breakfast, while the kids watched cartoons on the giant TV, Alex called his assistant. "Claire, I need you to book 3 things this morning. Hair and clothes for 2 5-year-old boys. And," he looked at Sarah, "what else do they need?" "Shoes," Sarah said quietly. "Theirs have holes." "Shoes too, the best there are. And I want you to hire someone from HR to come this afternoon. We have a candidate for the CTO job." He hung up and looked at Sarah. "The interviews start tomorrow. Today, let the kids have a normal day, or as normal as possible." He took them shopping. Gail and Thomas had never been in such nice stores. They touched the clothes carefully, as if they would break. Alex bought them everything they needed: clothes, shoes, coats. When Thomas picked a backpack with dinosaurs, Gail picked the same one. They always pick the same, Sarah explained. They are never apart. Which one is older? Alex asked. Gail, by 3 minutes. But he acts like it's 3 years. He always protects. Thomas. Alex watched his sons play in the toy section. They laughed, they ran, they were just kids. But there was something in their eyes, a shadow of worry, that 5-year-old kids shouldn't have. Do they know how to read? He asked. Yes, I taught them. They couldn't go to school this year because… Sarah didn't finish. They will go, Alex promised, to the best school in New York. They will start after the winter break. That night, after putting the kids to bed, Alex and Sarah talked for hours. He told her how his life had been those 6 years, the success of the company, the global deals, the news stories, a life that sounded bright from outside, but was empty inside. I dated women, he admitted. Nothing serious. It never lasted more than a few months. They were all beautiful, successful, smart, but something always didn't work. What was it? Sarah asked. Alex looked into her eyes. That none of them were you. She looked away. Don't say that. It's true. I spent 6 years trying to replace you and I never could, because the problem wasn't you, it was me, it was always me. The interviews for the CTO job started 2 days later. Sarah fought against 4 candidates, all men, all with great resumes and years of work in big companies. The group checking them had 5 people, the money boss, the head of HR, 2 senior coders, and an outside expert. Alex stayed out on purpose so it didn't look like he was helping. Sarah came to her interview in a suit Alex had lent her from his sister, he said, though he bought it that morning. She had her old laptop now fixed with a talk she had made over the last 48 hours. She didn't talk about loose ideas. She showed real fixes for current problems at Montgomery Systems she found in public info. She talked about better systems, new security, how the Sentinel Corps could grow to see not just money fraud, but cyber attacks too. When she finished, the outside expert whistled. Where have you been working? The last few years, Ms. Miller. Freelance, Sarah answered. Mostly for startups and small companies that needed fixes but couldn't pay the big firms. And why Montgomery Systems? Sarah picked her words carefully. Because I worked here years ago. I know what this company can be, and I think I can help it get there. At the end of the day, the group met with Alex. There is no contest, the money boss said. Miller is better than all other candidates in every way. Her tech knowledge is amazing. Her ideas are new and she has a plan the others just don't have. Do you suggest hiring her? Alex asked, keeping his voice flat. Yes, the 5 said together. Alex called Sarah that night. The job is yours, on your own merit. The group was all for it. He heard her breath on the other side, shaking. When do I start? Whenever you want. But I suggest you take some time first. Get settled, find an apartment, let the kids get used to things. I already found an apartment. In the Upper West Side, 3 bedrooms near a good school. The kids start class in January. Sarah, I start Monday. She stopped him. I don't need time. I need to work. The next months were a change. Sarah moved to the apartment with Gail and Thomas. It was not luxury, but it was hers, paid with her salary. The kids started school and did great. Gail was great at math, Thomas at art. They made friends, played soccer, went to birthday parties, and every other weekend, Alex picked them up. First, the kids were careful, treating him like a nice stranger. But slowly, as he learned to be a father, clumsy, making mistakes, but trying, they started to open up. They showed him their school drawings. They told him about their friends. They asked him to play video games. And one night, 3 months after this all started, Thomas fell asleep on his lap while watching a movie. Alex looked at the boy, his soft breath, his relaxed face, and felt something he never felt before. A love so strong it hurt. A love that asked for nothing back, that just wanted to protect. He looked at Sarah, who was watching from the other side of the sofa, with Gail asleep against her. Thank you, Alex whispered. For what? For giving me this chance. For letting me know them. Sarah nodded slowly. They are better with you in their lives. That is the only reason. In the company, Sarah fast showed why she was picked. In 3 months, she fixed the whole tech department. She put in new security, made slow systems fast, and led the work on the next generation of the Sentinel Corps. The workers loved her. She was tough but fair, listened to everyone's ideas, and gave credit where it was due. Her team worked hard because she worked harder than all of them. Alex watched her from far away, amazed. This was the Sarah he never let bloom. This was the woman who had been there all along, waiting to be seen. In board meetings, she showed her projects with the same confidence she had in Chicago, but now no one laughed. No one stopped her. Everyone listened because they knew what she said was brilliant, and Alex, for the first time in his life, stayed quiet and learned. One afternoon, 4 months after Sarah started, the boss of the California office called with a problem. A big client, a bank with offices all over the world, was thinking of moving to a rival. They wanted a talk on the new Sentinel Corps 2.0, and they wanted the tech team to do it in person. "You have to go," Alex told Sarah. She waited. "The kids, I'll watch them. It's Friday. They will spend the weekend with me anyway. It's in San Francisco, it's important. If we lose this deal, then go and make sure we don't lose it," Alex said. "I trust you." Sarah looked at him surprised. It was the first time he said those words, "I trust you." "Okay, I'll go." The talk in San Francisco was at the main office. The room was full. The client, experts, tech press, and on video, investors from everywhere. Sarah went on stage in her blue suit, a better version of the one she wore in Chicago 6 years back. But this time there were no nerves. This time, Sarah Miller was alone on that stage, and it was exactly where she should be. She started her talk. She explained how the Sentinel Corps 2.0 didn't just find fraud, but learned from every attack to see the next ones. She showed charts that proved a 95% drop in fraud losses. She talked about growth, how it worked with old systems, costs, and gains. But what really grabbed the crowd was when she opened the code live and started to show how it worked in real time. Her fingers flew over the keys while she made a fake fraud attack, and the system found, checked, and blocked it in milliseconds. "This system," she said, looking right at the bank people, "will not just protect your money, it will protect your client's trust. And in the digital age, trust is everything." When she finished, the silence lasted 3 seconds. Then the clapping. It was not polite clapping, it was excited, real clapping. The CEO of the bank stood up, walked to the stage, and gave her his hand. "Ms. Miller, you have a deal. We want to put the Sentinel Corps 2.0 in all our offices." More clapping. The press took notes fast. The investors on video smiled. Sarah walked off the stage, dizzy from the rush. Many bosses came around to praise her, to ask tech questions, to ask for cards. Then she saw something that made her stop. At the back of the room, by the last row, was Alex Montgomery, and with him, each holding one of his hands, were Gail and Thomas. The kids wore small suits that Alex had clearly bought for them. Gail had a blue tie, Thomas had a red tie. They smiled big. Sarah felt her heart fill with something warm and painful at once. She walked toward them, moving through the crowd. "What are you doing here?" she asked, though she couldn't help smiling. "Mom was amazing," Gail said, jumping excited. Everyone clapped a lot. "I didn't get anything you said," Thomas admitted, "but it sounded very smart." Sarah knelt to hug them. Alex stood there, watching the scene with a soft face. "I thought they should see it," he said when Sarah looked up. "They should see their mother being brilliant, being seen for who she is." "How did you get—" "I took a flight this morning with them. I told them it was a surprise for Mom." Alex smiled a little. "Thomas got sick on the plane, but he made it. I gave him my cookie," Gail added with pride. Sarah stood up, still with an arm around each kid. "Thank you," she said to Alex, and this time there was no irony or distance, just real thanks. "You're welcome," he answered. Then, lower, "You were great, like I always knew you could be, if I hadn't stood in your way." One of the bank bosses came over, stopping the moment. "Ms. Miller, would you do us the honor of dinner tonight? We want to talk about the deal." Sarah looked at Alex, then at the kids. "Tonight is for my family," she said firmly, "but I will be happy to meet tomorrow morning." The boss nodded, impressed by her. "Of course. Tomorrow, then." When he left, Gail pulled Sarah's sleeve. "Can we go to the beach? Dad said San Francisco has a beach." "It's too cold to swim," Sarah said. "Not to swim," Thomas explained. "Just to see the ocean. We have never seen the ocean." Sarah looked at Alex with surprise. Never? He shook his head sadly. Never. There was no money for those trips. Then, Sarah said, taking her son's hands, let's go see the ocean. They went to the beach as the sun started to go down. The sky was orange and pink. Gail and Thomas ran toward the water, shouting with joy as the cold waves wet their new shoes. Sarah and Alex walked behind them, slow watching them play. They are happy, Alex noted. Yes, Sarah agreed. Finally. And you? He asked, stopping. Are you happy? Sarah looked at him. The man who had been her storm for years, the father of her children, the CEO, who hired her because he had to, not because he wanted to, but also the man who flew to San Francisco with her sons, just so they could see her win. I am better, she said honestly. I don't know if I am happy yet. There is a lot of hurt to heal, but I am better. Alex nodded. I understand, and I will keep working so that one day you can say yes, you are happy. Gail ran toward them, wet up to his knees. Dad, Mom, come. There is a starfish. It was the first time he called. Them that together like they were one. Dad and Mom, not Dad, not Mom, but Dad and Mom, one thing. The two adults looked at each other. Something passed between them. Something with no words. It was not love, not yet. Love needs trust and trust needs time. But it was something, the start of something. They ran toward the water, where Thomas was trying to catch the starfish. All four ended up wet, laughing, with sand in expensive shoes and salt in their hair. And for the first time in 6 years, Sarah Miller felt whole. 6 months passed from that night. 6 months of slow but steady changes. Alex learned to be a father. He read books on kids, went to school meetings, helped with math homework, which he was good at, and with art projects, which he was bad at but tried. He learned Gail was allergic to chocolate, and Thomas had bad dreams on Tuesdays for no clear reason. He learned being a father was not giving things. It was being there. It was listening. It was celebrating small wins and fixing small sad things. In the company, Sarah kept fixing the tech. The Sentinel Core 2.0 was a huge hit. 3 more banks took it. An insurance firm, a London firm. Montgomery Systems doubled in size in half a year. And in board meetings, something changed. Alex stopped being the CEO who took over every talk. He listened, he asked, and when Sarah talked, he took notes. The workers saw the change. They started to call him the new Alex, though never to his face. It's like someone recoded him, a worker said in the cafe. Or like he finally grew up, another said. The link between Alex and Sarah was still hard. There were good days, where they could talk easily about the kids, about work, even laugh. And there were hard days, where a casual word from him felt like the past and she shut down, her eyes far away. Sorry, he said then. I didn't mean. I know, she answered. Just give me a minute. And he gave her that minute, because he had learned respect also means space. One afternoon in June, Sarah got a call from Stanford. They wanted her to give a talk on AI systems for financial safety. It was a huge honor, the kind of invite that could open world doors. But it's in California, she told Alex, and it's for a week. Go, he answered fast. I'll watch the kids. A whole week. Sarah, I can handle a week. Trust me. She studied him for a long moment. Okay, I trust you. Those were simple words, but the weight they had was huge. Because trusting. Alex Montgomery with her sons, with the most precious thing she had, was the biggest act of faith Sarah could give. While Sarah was away, Alex found that watching kids alone for a week was tiring. The kids had after-school things, lunches to make, homework to check, play dates to set, a fight over who picked the movie. Wednesday night, after finally putting Gail and Thomas to bed, which took 2 hours because neither wanted to sleep, Alex fell on the sofa, totally tired. His phone rang. It was a video call from Sarah. How is it going? She asked, and she looked worried. Good, Alex lied, noticing he had tomato sauce on his shirt and didn't know why. Everything is under control. Alex, you have dark circles under your eyes. He laughed, tired. It's okay, it's just, how did you do this alone for 5 years, with 2 babies, no help, working? Sarah's voice got soft. Because I had no other choice. You do. I don't want another choice. I want to be their father. The father they should have had from the start. He heard a quiet sound as if Sarah was holding back tears. "You are doing well," she finally said. "They love you, you know. They talk about you all the time when I call." "Really? Really? Gail says you are the best at math help. Thomas says you make the funniest voices when you read stories." Alex felt something warm grow in his chest. "I love them," he said, and it was the first time he said it out loud. "I love them so much it scares me sometimes." "That is how it's supposed to feel," Sarah answered softly. When she came back, she brought gifts, sweatshirts for the kids, a book on tech for Alex. "My talk went well," she said. "Very well. They offered me a spot as a guest teacher, 3 months a year teaching and research." "That is amazing," Alex said, truly happy for her. "Then will you take it?" "I don't know. It would mean being away from the kids 3 months a year. They could go with you, or I could watch them here." "Sarah, it is a great chance. Don't say no because of fear." "It's not fear," she said. "It's just we finally have stability. I don't want to break that." "Stability doesn't mean standing still," Alex said. "It means having a strong base to grow from, and now you have it." Sarah looked at him with surprise. "When did you get so wise?" "Since I realized I lost everything for being a fool," he answered with a sad smile. "I tend to learn the hard way." Summer came. Gail and Thomas turned 6 in July, and Alex made a party that was too much. A bouncy house, a magician, endless ice cream, 30 kids running in his yard. Sarah watched him from the deck, shaking her head but smiling. "It's too much," she told him. "I have 6 years to make up for," Alex answered. "Let me overdo it." That night, after the guests left and the kids were out cold, Alex and Sarah cleaned together. They picked up balloons, paper plates, cake. "Thanks for today," Sarah said while throwing away trash. "They had the best time." "Me, too," Alex admitted. Seeing their faces when the magician came out, Thomas still thinks the tricks are real. Gail is explaining to him how they work. They laughed together, and it was easy, natural, like it used to be before everything broke. Alex stopped in the middle of the room looking at her. "Sarah, I have to tell you something." She looked up, seeing the serious tone. "What's wrong?" "These last 6 months have been the best of my life. Not for the company, not for the money, but for them, for Gail and Thomas, for seeing you be who you were meant to be, for having this family." Sarah put the trash bag on the floor. "Alex, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he went on fast. "I know what I did to you was unforgivable, but I want you to know that every day I try to be better. Every day I try to be the man you deserve." "I know that," Sarah said softly. "You know?" "Yes, I see it. In how you are with them. In how you treat me now, at work. In how you have really changed." They looked at each other for a long moment. There was so much to say, so much still broken, but there was also something new growing, something weak but real. "I don't know if I can ever love you again," Sarah said honestly. "There is too much pain in the past." "I am not asking you to love me," Alex answered. "I am just asking you to let me keep trying, to keep being better, to keep being their father and your friend. If that is all I can be, I accept it." Sarah nodded slowly. "Friends," she agreed. "We can do that." She held out her hand. Alex took it. It was not a kiss, not a romantic hug. It was a handshake that meant more than any of those things. It was a pact, a promise, a new start built on truth instead of heat. Fall brought changes. Sarah took the job at Stanford, but they agreed it would be only 6 weeks. Gail and Thomas stayed with Alex, who found that watching 6-year-olds was a bit easier than 5-year-olds. A bit. In the company, they made it official that Sarah Miller was now not just CTO, but also a part owner. Alex had given her a large part of his shares. "You can't give me this," Sarah had said when she saw the papers. "I'm not giving it to you," Alex corrected. "I'm giving it back. Your work, your system, your brain, they built half of this company. This is just seeing that truth." The business news loved the story. The CEO who admitted his CTO was the real brain behind his success. Magazines did articles, papers interviewed her, tech blogs put her on the top women in tech list, and in every interview when they asked about her fast rise, Sarah said the same. "I was always good at what I do. I just needed someone to give me the chance to show it." When they asked about her link to Alex Montgomery, she smiled and said, "It's complicated." Because it was. They were business partners. They were parents together. They were friends or something like it, but they were not a couple, and maybe they never would be again. And Alex accepted it, because he had learned finally that loving someone is not about owning them. It's about respecting them, supporting them, giving them space to be who they are. December came with cold and Christmas lights. Gail and Thomas wrote letters to Santa. Gail asked for science books, Thomas asked for art sets. The company had its best year ever, and at the holiday party, in the same hotel where the party had been 6 years before, Alex. Montgomery went on stage to give his yearly talk. This year, he started, looking at the 200 people there, I want to do something different. I want to talk about failure. There were surprised sounds. Montgomery Systems has been a success by many ways, he continued. We grew, won deals, gained value, but for years I failed in the most important thing, seeing the talent I had in front of me. He looked right at Sarah, who was sitting at a table near the front. Years ago, a brilliant engineer worked in this company, and I, because of my own fear, my ego, my inability to accept someone could be better than me, made her small. I shamed her, and I lost her. The room was silent. I lost years of her talent, but more important, I almost lost the chance to know 2 amazing kids who are my sons. I almost lost the chance to learn that being strong doesn't mean crushing others. It means lifting them up. He paused, catching his breath. Sarah Miller taught me that, not with words, but by being an example. She taught me that real leadership is seeing when you are wrong. It is changing, it is being humble enough to learn, even when learning hurts. The workers started to clap slowly. So, this Christmas, my wish for all of you is this. If there is someone whose talent you are not seeing, see it. If there is someone you owe a sorry to, say it. If there is something you need to change it. Because life is too short to waste being the wrong version of yourself. The clapping got louder. Alex walked off the stage and went right to Sarah. She looked at him with bright eyes. That was a good speech, she said. It was the truth, he answered simply. He took her hand, not in a romantic way, but as partners, as 2 people who had been through hell and came out the other side, different but together in a way neither could fully explain. Epilogue. 6 months later, at the office in San Francisco, in a room with a view of the bay, Sarah Miller showed the 3rd generation of the Sentinel Corps to a global crowd. Alex was in the back row with Gail and Thomas on each side. The kids had grown, now almost 7. Gail read a lot and said he wanted to be a scientist. Thomas painted all the time and dreamed of being an artist. Both knew their family was different. Mum and Dad didn't live together. They weren't married. But they loved each other in a hard way the kids accepted without needing to fully understand. Sarah was on stage, bright and sure, explaining. Hard math to a crowd that was hooked. When she finished, the clapping was loud. She walked off the stage and went right to her sons. Was I good? She asked, kneeling down. You were great, Mom, Gail said. Even if I still don't know what you are talking about, Thomas added, making them all laugh. Sarah looked at Alex. He held out his hand. She took it. It was not a romantic move. It was something better. It was respect. It was friendship. It was 2 people who had learned that love takes many forms. It was not the perfect ending. There were still hard days, awkward talks, memories that hurt. Sarah had not fully forgiven, and maybe she never would. The hurt had been too deep. But it was a real start. And sometimes, a real start is better than a perfect ending, because real starts are honest. They see the pain but choose to move on. They don't promise it will be easy, but they promise it will be worth the try. As they walked out together, with Gail and Thomas running ahead to the car, Sarah looked at Alex. Thank you, she said. For what? For changing, for trying, for being the father they needed. Thank you, he answered, for giving me the chance. They did not kiss. They did not hug. They just walked together toward the future, a future not certain but full of chances, because they had learned finally that real love is not about owning or control. It is about respect. It is about lifting each other up. It is about being brave enough to change. And as Gail and Thomas laughed in the back of the car, fighting over the music, Alex and Sarah shared a look. It was not perfect, but it was theirs, and it was real.